20 years apart, Japan played Brazil at the World Cup twice. Both times, Japan scored first. Both times, an impossible dream suddenly felt real. And both times, Brazil destroyed it. But the first defeat left behind one of the strangest images in World Cup history. A Japanese player lying alone on the grass, holding a yellow Brazil shirt over his face, while everyone else disappeared from the pitch. 11 days later, that player announced he was finished. Not just with Japan. With professional football, he was only 29. There was no career ending injury, no suspension, and no scandal. 4 days earlier, he had been named Man of the Match at the World Cup. So people reached the obvious conclusion. One terrible night against Brazil had broken Hidetoshi Nakata. But that was wrong. Because while millions watched his final match without realizing it, Nakata was carrying a secret that completely changes the meaning of that final image. And to understand it, we begin exactly 20 years later. On June 29th, 2026, Japan faced Brazil in the World Cup round of 32. Then, in the 29th minute, Kaishu Sano stole a misplaced pass and fired Japan into the lead. For nearly half an hour, Japan were eliminating Brazil. But Casemiro equalized. And with extra time only seconds away, Gabriel Martinelli scored in stoppage time. Brazil won 2-1. It was a new heartbreak, but also an eerie echo of a game from 2006. A game in which Japan also scored first against Brazil, only to watch everything collapse. And at the center of that earlier story was the most important footballer Japan had ever produced. Nakata was not simply a star. He was the face of a football country trying to prove that it belonged. He had been part of Japan's Olympic team in 1996, when they shocked Brazil 1-0 in the match, remembered as the Miracle of Miami. Japan were outsiders, yet they survived wave after wave of pressure and defeated one of the tournament's most talented teams. Brazil had appeared near the beginning of Nakata's rise. 1 year later, he became the engine of Japan's attempt to qualify for the World Cup for the first time. Nakata was only 20, but he scored 5 goals during qualification. Then came the decisive playoff against Iran. Japan won 3-2 after extra time, and Nakata helped create all 3 goals. Japan had never reached a World Cup before. Nakata helped open that door. In France in 1998, he played every match of Japan's first World Cup. 4 years later, he played every match again and scored against Tunisia as Japan reached the knockout stage for the first time. By 2006, Nakata had appeared in all 10 World Cup matches Japan had ever played. He was not just part of their history, he had been present for all of it. But Germany 2006 was going badly. Japan led Australia in their opening game, then conceded 3 late goals and lost 3-1. Their second match against Croatia ended 0-0. That left Japan close to elimination, but Nakata's own performance told a different story. He was named Man of the Match. 4 days before his final game, he had officially been judged the best player on a World Cup pitch. This was not a washed-up player who could no longer compete. Nakata had become a star in Italy, played for Roma during their 2001 Serie A title season, won the Coppa Italia with Parma, and later moved to the Premier League with Bolton. He had even been nominated for the Ballon d'Or 3 times. By 2006, he was no longer at his peak. But he remained an active European professional under contract with Fiorentina and capable of controlling a World Cup match. Then came Brazil. June 22nd, 2006. Dortmund. Japan needed a near impossible result to stay alive. Brazil were the defending champions, filled with Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, Juninho, and Roberto Carlos. Japan were supposed to be eliminated quietly. Instead, in the 34th minute, Keiji Tamada smashed the ball beyond Dida. 1-0 to Japan. For 11 minutes, the impossible was alive. The country that had shocked Brazil at the Olympics was now leading the defending world champions at the World Cup. And inside Nakata's mind was a thought nobody watching could understand. This might be the final match of his life. Japan came painfully close to reaching halftime ahead. Then, in stoppage time, Ronaldo scored. 8 minutes into the second half, Juninho made it 2-1. 6 minutes later, Gilberto scored the third. Ronaldo added another near the end. Japan had gone from a historic lead to a 4-1 defeat. The final whistle confirmed their elimination. Players exchanged shirts. Some walked toward the supporters. Others disappeared down the tunnel. But Nakata stayed on the pitch. He lay flat on his back, almost completely alone, and pulled a yellow Brazil shirt toward his face. At the time, the image seemed easy to explain. Japan's leader had failed. The pressure had overwhelmed him. One bad match had broken him. But 11 days later, on July 3rd, Nakata announced that he was leaving the national team, and every club team too. At 29. The football world was stunned. A player his age was supposed to change clubs, recover his form, or return home for one final chapter. Nakata did none of those things. And then came the detail that transformed the story. He had made the decision approximately 6 months before the World Cup. The Brazil defeat had not caused his retirement. The bad match was not the reason. It was simply the ending. That means the image of Nakata on the grass was not only a player mourning elimination. He was also processing the final seconds of a career he had secretly decided to leave. Every pass against Brazil had been one of his last. Every tackle, every run. When the referee blew the whistle, there would be no next season, no comeback, and no second chance. So why would a healthy, famous, and successful footballer walk away at 29? Nakata later explained that he was never someone who loved being a football fan. He loved playing. For years, playing had been driven by passion. But when that feeling disappeared, continuing began to feel dishonest, as though he would be performing the role of Hidetoshi Nakata without feeling like himself. Most players are forced out by their bodies. Nakata left because something inside him had already moved on. Money could not replace the feeling. Fame could not replace it. Another contract could not replace it. His retirement message was built around a simple idea. Life is a journey. And Nakata treated those words like instructions. After football, he traveled across the world. He then spent years exploring all 47 Japanese prefectures, meeting farmers, craftsmen, and sake producers. He eventually visited hundreds of sake breweries and built businesses designed to introduce Japanese sake and craftsmanship to a wider audience. It sounds like a completely different life. But perhaps it came from the same instinct that made him retire. He wanted to experience something honestly, rather than pretend to care about it.